Of all the people who have ever lived on Earth, an estimated 117 billion of them, what does it take to be remembered? To have your name survive long after you're gone? Researchers recently tried to answer that, compiling a list of every notable human in history. The final database had about 2.29 million names: rulers, scientists, artists, and innovators. But hidden among them is a man who was famous for none of those things. His name was Timothy Dexter, and he might just be the luckiest fool who ever lived. Dexter was an 18th century American businessman who made a series of financial decisions so monumentally stupid they should have ruined him 100 times over. He shipped thousands of winter bed warmers to the tropical Caribbean. He sent a massive shipment of coal to Newcastle, a city literally built on coal mining. By all logic, he was a terrible businessman. But somehow, every single one of his disastrous ideas made him a fortune. His story is a masterclass in failing upward, a bizarre journey of a man who stumbled into wealth against all odds. So, who was this bafflingly successful man? Timothy Dexter was born into poverty in Massachusetts in 1747. With no education to speak of, he left school at 8 years old to work as a farm laborer. His life was unremarkable until he married a wealthy widow, Elizabeth Frothingham. Suddenly, Dexter found himself living among Boston's elite, surrounded by educated, cultured people who wanted nothing to do with him. Desperate to fit in, he tried to copy everything they did, right down to their business ventures. When he saw his wealthy neighbors buying up large amounts of continental currency, the paper money issued during the Revolutionary War, he decided to do the same. But Dexter didn't just dabble. He went all in, spending nearly his entire fortune on these bills, which by then had become almost completely worthless. It was a catastrophic financial move, but then the impossible happened. Years later, the new U.S. government decided to honor the old currency. It announced that continental dollars could be exchanged for treasury bonds at 1% of their original face value. For most people, this was still a huge loss, but Dexter had bought his currency when it was worth far less than that. He had purchased it for pennies on the dollar. Overnight, his pile of worthless paper turned into an immense fortune. He was suddenly one of the richest men in New England. But money couldn't buy him respect. The high society of Boston still saw him as an uneducated buffoon. Frustrated, he moved his family to the town of Newburyport, where he demanded a prestigious public office. To get him to stop bothering them, the town council invented a ridiculous, non-existent position just for him, informer of deer. The title was a joke. There hadn't been any deer in the area for years, but Dexter took it seriously, proudly embracing his new role. This was just the beginning of his strange and lucky career. With his newfound wealth and ego, Dexter launched a series of business schemes that sound like they were pulled from a comedy sketch. First, a merchant, as a prank, told him he should ship coal to Newcastle, England, the equivalent of selling ice to Eskimos. Dexter, not getting the joke, did exactly that. But when his ship arrived, Newcastle was in the middle of a massive, citywide miners' strike. The local coal supply had completely dried up. Dexter's ship was the only source of fuel in town, and he sold his entire cargo at an enormous profit. Next, another trickster suggested he sell bed warmers, long-handled pans used to heat beds with hot coals, to the West Indies. Shipping winter items to the sweltering tropics was an absurd idea, but Dexter, ever the fool, sent 40,000 of them. When they arrived, the local merchants found an ingenious new use for them. The pans and their long handles were perfect for ladling molasses in the sugar plantations. They bought every single one. Again, Dexter made a huge profit. His luck was relentless. He accidentally bought up a massive quantity of whalebone at a time when nobody wanted it. Shortly after, it became a crucial component in women's corsets, and the fashion trend exploded. Since Dexter owned most of the supply, he was able to name his price, making another fortune. He even managed to profit from stray cats. Hearing that the Caribbean was overrun with rats, he rounded up all the stray cats in his town and shipped them south. They were sold as pest control, and once again, he made money. Everything he touched turned to gold, no matter how nonsensical the venture. As his wealth grew, so did his ego. He built a lavish mansion and surrounded it with over 40 giant wooden statues of famous men like George Washington and Napoleon Bonaparte. In the most prominent spot, he placed a statue of himself with a plaque that read, "I am the first in the East, the first in the West, and the greatest philosopher in the Western world." He insisted people call him Lord Dexter and hired a local poet to write glowing verses about his genius. His home life was just as strange. He began telling visitors that his wife, who was very much alive and living in the same house, was actually a ghost who haunted the halls. But his most bizarre act was yet to come. Wanting to see how people really felt about him, Timothy Dexter decided to fake his own death. He announced his passing and arranged a grand funeral. Thousands of people showed up to mourn the great Lord Dexter. He watched the ceremony from a hiding spot, pleased with the large turnout. But then, he noticed something that enraged him. His wife wasn't crying. In a fit of anger, he leaped out of hiding, revealing he was alive, and began shouting at her in front of the shocked crowd for not being sad enough. Towards the end of his life, he decided to share his wisdom with the world by writing a book. The result was a chaotic, rambling memoir titled A Pickle for the Knowing Ones. The book was a mess of bizarre stories and spelling errors, written with absolutely no punctuation. Not a single period, comma, or question mark. When readers complained, Dexter released a second edition. It was the same book, but with an extra page at the end filled with nothing but rows of punctuation marks. He included a note telling readers to pepper and salt it as they please. Incredibly, the book was a hit. Timothy Dexter died for real this time in 1806, leaving behind a legacy as one of history's most eccentric and fortunate characters. Was he a secret genius who understood markets in a way no one else could? Or was he just a man who tripped and fell into a mountain of gold over and over again? Whatever the answer, his story proves that sometimes, in the grand narrative of history, it's not the smartest or the strongest who are remembered, but the ones who are simply too strange to be forgotten. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into one of history's oddest stories, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more tales of unbelievable lives. See you next time.